Claire Vance and I grew up together. I was there when she had nothing, and I stayed by her side as she built an empire worth hundreds of millions. We were in love for 10 solid years. I had a wedding dress custom-made to her exact specifications, placed the winning bid on a flawless diamond ring, and planned the kind of epic proposal you see in movies. But when the moment came, she just curled her lip, her voice dripping with contempt. "I'm just not feeling it anymore," she'd said. "The younger guys have so much more energy." Heartbroken, I told her it was over. She assumed I was just throwing a tantrum. I even heard she made a bet with her best friend, Maya. "Give him a week," Claire had boasted. "He'll be on his knees, begging me to take him back." But months went by, and I never broke. Panicked, she finally swallowed her pride and tried to make things right. "Where are you?" she asked when she finally got a hold of me. "I want to propose to you." But it wasn't me who answered the phone. It was a woman with a cool, commanding voice. "He's busy. Don't bother him." In the background, Claire could hear the unmistakable sounds of two people lost in pleasure. She completely lost it. "What are you two doing?" The woman's reply was a purr of confirmation. Exactly what it sounds like. 10 years. That's how long Claire and I had been together. I was going to propose on our anniversary, and I'd spent a solid month orchestrating a moment she would never forget. A helicopter circled over the scenic overlook in the Austin Hills, showering the clearing with rose petals. On the massive screens I'd rented, a video montage I'd painstakingly edited played out the story of our love. I walked toward her, my heart pounding, and dropped to one knee, pulling the velvet box with the auction 1 diamond from my pocket. "Claire," I said, my voice thick with emotion, "I love you. Will you marry me?" I expected her to throw her arms around me, to cover my face in kisses. Instead, the proposal I hoped would be unforgettable became a humiliation I'd never lived down. Her face was a mask of impatience. There was none of the joy I'd envisioned. Her friends, standing off to the side, were practically vibrating with excitement. "Claire, say yes," one of them urged, but she just turned and walked away, a voice memo playing from her phone. "Claire, baby, I miss you. Can you come see me?" A chill went through me. It was a man's voice, slick and predatory. People had warned me for months that Claire had been getting cozy with a string of pretty boys, that I should watch my back. I'd asked her about it, but she dismissed my questions with contempt. Now, the truth was undeniable. "Liam, let's do this some other time," she said over her shoulder. "I have to go look at an important contract." I grabbed her arm, my eyes pleading. "I'm serious about this, Claire. Everyone is watching. It'll only take a minute. Are you really going to leave?" I'll admit it. I loved her to the point of losing myself, and I had been happy to do it. But this public rejection, this slap in the face in front of everyone we knew. What was I supposed to do? "Don't make a scene, Liam," she snapped, her voice low. "The company is more important. We'll have other chances." "It's just a few minutes," I insisted, my voice cracking. "Is what they're saying about you true?" I stood in her way, desperate for an answer. She didn't say another word. She just pushed past me and strode toward her car. A hush fell over our friends, their eyes now filled with pity. I just stood there, head bowed, a dull ache spreading through my chest. She had changed. She was ready to throw it all away. We were childhood sweethearts, 10 years together. And in one afternoon, my heart had been shattered into a million pieces. I don't know how long I stood there. Eventually, only my best friend, Mark, remained, his hand resting uncomfortably on my shoulder. "Liam, man, I heard she went to that new members-only club downtown. Maybe you should go talk to her. Maybe it's all just a big misunderstanding." I walked into the club and went straight to the private suite I knew she'd booked. The door was slightly ajar. I didn't have to go in. I could hear everything perfectly. There was no contract meeting. It was just her and her circle of friends, along with a few guys I didn't recognize. Through the crack in the door, I watched as Claire kissed one of them, long and deep. Maya, her best friend, looked uneasy. "Claire, don't you think this is a bit much? Liam just proposed to you. You didn't say yes, but you didn't exactly say no, either. And now you're all over this guy. Aren't you worried about what he'll think?" Claire scoffed and took a sip of her champagne. "He proposed. That's his business," she said, her voice lazy and dismissive. "Whether I accept is my choice. 10 years together. Honestly, I'm so sick of him." A few of her friends chimed in with sycophantic laughter. "Exactly. She gave him 10 years. You should be grateful. What's some boring middle-aged guy compared to a hot young thing?" "But Liam is so handsome," another girl countered. "I have such a crush on him." "Claire, you're just spoiled for choice. And Liam is a genius. He makes so much money." "Yeah, seriously, Liam's a great guy," someone else added. "And he's totally devoted to you. Don't you feel bad hurting him like this?" Claire shot her a look that could freeze fire. "How can I feel bad when I'm completely bored? If you guys like him so much, go for it. Who wants used goods anyway? The conversation that followed was a blur of crude jokes and cruel laughter, all at my expense. Listening to it, my heart felt like it was being squeezed in a vice. I wanted to storm in there to demand an explanation, but then a cold clarity washed over me. I turned around and walked away without a word. Back at our penthouse, I started packing my things. I packed until the tears blurred my vision, and then I must have fallen asleep on the floor. I woke up to the sound of Claire walking in. Her familiar perfume was mixed with the scent of a man's cologne. Maybe she felt a sliver of guilt for humiliating me, because she walked over and tried to wrap her arms around me. I pushed her away. The shock on her face was absolute. In 10 years, I had never once denied her anything. Her expression hardened, shifting from surprise to anger. I ignored it, just staring at her, trying to burn the image of her cold, merciless face into my memory. "We're breaking up," I said, my voice a raw whisper. Inside, I felt something shatter, the last fragile piece of my youthful idealism. I thought I was ready for this, that I had already let go. But in that moment, I realized letting go was never going to be easy. The pain was excruciating, but I told myself it was better to rip the bandage off now. Claire was stunned. She clearly thought this was just another one of my moods. "What are you talking about?" she said, a bitter, mocking laugh escaping her lips. It was a laugh that held a strange mix of anger and, I thought, relief. "Liam, you better think carefully, because if you say that again, there's no coming back. You could beg me, and it wouldn't matter." I looked her straight in the eye, my gaze as steady and serious as it had been when I was on one knee. I said, "We're breaking up. I'm completely serious, and I will never come back and beg you for anything." She fell silent, her eyes filled with a complicated storm of emotions. "Is this about the engagement?" "Yes. Isn't that enough?" "Liam, stop being so childish." I just wasn't ready. I couldn't listen to any more lies. I cut her off. "I've already decided. There's nothing to explain. This isn't a negotiation. It's a notification." She stared at me, her expression shifting as if she were seeing a stranger. Then she stood up and slapped me across the face. "Liam Carter, you take that back right now," she hissed, "or we have no future." I touched my cheek, which was already starting to sting. It was the first time she'd ever hit me. The physical pain was a dull throb compared to the agony in my chest. "I can't take it back," I said softly. "We haven't had a future for a long time." I straightened up, my voice turning cold and formal. "If that's all, Ms. Vance, I'll have to ask you to leave. My lawyer will be in touch to discuss the rest." Her face twisted with rage. "You'll regret this, Liam. I'll be waiting for the day you come crying back to me." She turned and slammed the door behind her. I owned a significant stake in Claire's company. I wasn't involved in the day-to-day, but my early contributions were a cornerstone of its success. Dividing the equity was too messy for us to handle alone. It was a job for the professionals. For now, I just needed to get away. There was nothing left for me in this city. I called my lawyer and gave him full authority to handle the separation of our assets. The moment I hung up, a notification popped up on my phone. Maya had sent me a video from an Instagram story. It was from last night. The caption read, "Celebrating freedom." In the video, one of Claire's boy toys was laughing. "So, Claire, how many days do you give your loser ex-boyfriend before he caves?" he asked. "He always comes crawling back with his tail between his legs." "I'll give him 3 days, someone else piped up. Liam seemed really pissed this time. "You really embarrassed him." "Yeah, Claire," another voice added, "in front of all his friends." That was brutal. Claire just smirked, looking utterly unimpressed. "A week, tops. If he takes any longer, I won't say yes even if he proposes again." Her friends roared with laughter as someone popped a bottle of champagne. "Claire's totally gonna win this bet. Liam can't live without you. He's the ultimate simp." A bitter smile twisted my lips. I didn't need a mirror to know how ugly it was. I knew Claire had made sure this video got to me. It was a warning shot, a command to get back in line. But after everything I'd heard her say, how could I ever go back? There was no row back. I went to the closet and took out the wedding dress I'd had made for her. I ran my hand over the delicate fabric one last time. I had designed it myself, incorporating every detail I knew she loved. It had taken 6 months to create. Now it was useless. It would never have its bride. I picked up a pair of shears and began to cut. I sliced the beautiful gown into dozens of pieces, fragments that could never be put back together again, just like our relationship. Then, I took off the ring I wore, a gift from her years ago, and gathered every other present she had ever given me. These were our memories. I would leave them all behind, taking nothing with me. I sat down, picked up a pen, and wrote a letter. It was for Claire. Maybe one day she would read it. A day later, I landed in New York City. I'd gone to college here, and a lot of my old friends still lived in the city. It seemed like a good place to disappear for a while. When they heard I was back in town, they insisted on throwing a reunion of sorts. We hadn't seen each other in years, but their energy was infectious. We were in the middle of a loud, drunken round of toasts when the door to our private room swung open. A few of my friends' jaws dropped. Whoa, who is that? I glanced over and saw a woman who looked vaguely familiar, but I couldn't place her. I gave a self-deprecating smile. Who she was didn't matter to me. She had probably just walked into the wrong room. But then, she started walking directly toward me. Liam Carter, you're back in the city, and you didn't even think to call? Am I that easy to forget? I looked into her bright, piercing eyes, and a memory clicked into place. Serafina Monroe? Is that you? Hearing me say her name, everyone at the table froze. Serafina Monroe, Sarah, was the untouchable heiress of one of New York's most powerful families. She'd been a year ahead of us in college, a campus legend. With her stunning, icy beauty and formidable background, she had a legion of admirers, but she never gave any of them the time of day. Then, in my sophomore year, she'd suddenly transferred to a school abroad and vanished from our lives, eventually becoming a distant memory. Seeing her now, I was stunned. We had met by chance in the library once. It was a brief, polite exchange, nothing more than a nodding acquaintance. Claire had been jealous for weeks after that, and it had taken all my effort to reassure her. I couldn't believe this woman even remembered me, let alone sought me out. My friends snapped out of their shock and scrambled to offer her a seat. She waved them off and slid into the empty chair right next to me. Well, this is an honor, Sarah, one of my friends joked nervously. I remember guys who would have sold their souls to have dinner with you, and you wouldn't even look at them. Liam must have some serious pull. Everyone laughed, careful not to push the joke too far. You didn't mess with the Monroe family. Several of the guys at the table actually worked for companies under their corporate umbrella. They knew better than to be anything but respectful. You're all too kind, Sarah said, her voice smooth as silk. I just heard Liam was in town and wanted to stop by and say hello. Please, don't let me interrupt. She was effortlessly charming, and my friends, eager to curry favor, quickly brought the party's energy back up. I was the only one who couldn't relax. This woman's intentions were crystal clear, but we barely knew each other. Liam, she said, turning to me with a playful glint in her eye. What's wrong? You don't look happy to see me. I quickly shook my head. Of course not. It's great to see you, Sarah. I'm just surprised. As I fumbled for something to say, the friend next to me leaned in. Sarah, you don't know the half of it. Liam's been gone for years. He just got out of a bad breakup and came back here to get his head straight. Tonight's party is to celebrate his freedom. When she heard I was single, a flicker of something, a bright, intense light, flashed in Sarah's eyes before disappearing. If I hadn't been watching her so closely, I would have missed it. To break the awkward silence, I raised my glass to her. She met my gaze over the rim of her own. My friend nudged me discreetly. Dude, what's the deal with you and the Monroe heiress? She's definitely here for you. I looked at the woman who was now laughing and chatting with my friends as if she'd known them for years. She was wearing an impeccably tailored blazer, her long legs sheathed in silk stockings. But behind the confident smile, I saw a hint of exhaustion in her eyes. I stared a little too long before I caught myself. What relationship? I muttered back. I'm just a regular guy. Getting a second glance from someone like her is a gift. Don't go getting ideas. My friend wasn't convinced. No way, man. I saw that look in her eyes. It's not nothing. I'm going to find out. Before I could stop him, the jerk had already called out across the table. Sarah, we've all got places to be soon, but Liam's had a bit too much to drink. Would it be too much trouble for you to arrange a car to get him home safely? I wanted to strangle him. Serafina Monroe, an untouchable NYC socialite. Did you want to read a headline tomorrow about some drunk idiot who accidentally fell into the Hudson River? I shot to my feet. I'm fine, really. Please don't trouble yourself, Sarah. But Sarah didn't give me a chance to refuse. Of course, she said, a slow, knowing smile spreading across her face. It's no trouble at all. It's been years, Liam. I missed you. That smile sent a shiver down my spine. Maybe I was going to be in the news tomorrow after all. Sarah was as good as her word. She grabbed my hand and started pulling me out of the restaurant. I'd had a few drinks, but I was far from drunk. I tried to protest, but she just pushed me into the back of a sleek black car waiting at the curb. If you don't want to make headlines tomorrow, you'll do as you're told, she whispered, her voice a low threat. Okay, so it was a threat. I just hoped the headlines she was thinking of weren't the same ones I was imagining. The entire ride, she was practically glowing, smiling at me in a way that had me genuinely terrified. When the car pulled up to my hotel, I thanked her and prepared to make a run for it. But she grabbed my arm. I turned back, and suddenly the atmosphere was charged. We were standing incredibly close. All I had to do was lean forward an inch to kiss her full, red lips. But I didn't dare. Liam, are you really that heartless? She murmured, her voice a low purr. We haven't seen each other in years. I brought you all the way back to your hotel. Aren't you going to invite me up for a drink? I understood exactly what she was implying, and I was in no position to refuse. Her tone was a suggestion, but her eyes made it clear it was an order. Okay. The moment the elevator doors closed, Sarah threw her arms around my neck and kissed me, deep and demanding. The alcohol must have hit me harder than I thought, because as soon as I felt the softness of her lips, my defenses crumbled. She was tall, not petite like Claire, standing only half a head shorter than me. She was incredibly assertive, her hands gripping the front of my shirt as she kissed me again and again. As I wrapped my arms around her slim waist, I found myself surrendering to her dominance. Was this what it felt like to be completely overwhelmed? When we reached my hotel room door, she draped herself around my neck. Liam, she whispered against my ear, carry me inside. At that moment, no matter how much I wanted her, her identity crashed back into my mind. Sarah, please let me go, I pleaded. We can't do this. She grabbed my face and turned my head toward the corner of the hallway ceiling, right where a security camera was blinking. This is evidence of you assaulting me, she said, her voice dropping to a husky whisper. If you don't do what I say, you're finished. I wanted to cry, but there was no time to think. I swept her up into my arms. The second we were inside, I tossed her onto the bed. Sarah, you're the one who chose this, I said, my voice rough. You can still back out. She didn't flinch. She just rolled over and straddled me, her eyes blazing. She fumbled with my shirt for a moment before letting out a frustrated sigh. You do it, she huffed. I don't know how. The alcohol, the raw emotion, it all took over. I lunged at her. She cried out, her voice a mix of pain and pleasure, but she wouldn't let me stop. We spent the entire night wrapped around each other, finally falling into an exhausted sleep as the first light of dawn broke through the window. When I woke up, the alcohol had worn off. I saw Sarah sleeping peacefully beside me, and a wave of pure terror washed over me. A small, satisfied smile played on her lips. On the pristine white sheets, there was a small, dark red stain. My mind went completely blank. I remembered flashes of the night before, and I wanted to punch myself in the face. This cool, sophisticated woman. It had been her first time. I was mentally preparing myself for prison. What the hell had I done? You're awake. Sarah's eyes fluttered open. Her voice was hoarse from crying out last night. Do you have any idea what you've done? I couldn't meet her gaze. I was drowning in guilt. So, you slept with me, and now you're not going to take responsibility? She teased. I looked at her, at the playful smirk in her eyes, and I felt like I was going to be sick. Sarah, just tell me. I begged. What will it take for you to forgive me? She shrugged, casually getting out of bed, and started to dress right in front of me. Don't even think about being that kind of guy. Get dressed. We're leaving. As I pulled on my clothes, I asked cautiously, where are we going? City Hall, she said brightly. Or if you prefer, the police station. I was such an idiot. Why did I drink so much last night? My face was a mask of desperation. Sarah, I'm not good enough for you, I pleaded. Please, just let me go. She walked over, a triumphant look on her face, and hooked a finger under my chin. Liam, my family is pushing me into an arranged marriage. I have no choice. So, here's the deal. You come with me to City Hall right now. If you agree, we can get a divorce in a year. If you don't, I'll personally escort you to the nearest precinct. She leaned in closer. You should choose carefully. Option B doesn't just mean a few years in prison. Besides, she purred, am I really that scary? Where's all that courage you had last night? You weren't saying this then. A cold dread washed over me, afraid of what other stupid things I might have said. Sarah, what did I say last night? She looked at me, her eyes dancing with amusement. Oh, quite a lot. I seem to recall you promising to teach me a lesson, something about making sure I couldn't get out of bed. And there was definitely a part where you swore to cherish me for the rest of your life. I glanced at her smooth, porcelain skin and felt a familiar stirring. I'll choose City Hall, I mumbled. But Sarah, why me? Hearing me finally surrender, she beamed. But instead of answering my question, she wrapped her arms around my neck, and I could feel her warm breath on my skin. I knew she was teasing me, but I was past the point of resisting. My dear Sarah, I sighed. I just hope you don't regret this. She didn't miss a beat. Darling husband, I'm worried you're the one who's going to have regrets. A few hours later, I walked out of City Hall with a marriage certificate in my hand, my mind still reeling. I had somehow gotten married. Just like that, I spent the next couple of weeks with Serafina Monroe. Then, I got a text from Claire's friend, Maya. Liam, when are you coming back? Everyone misses you. It was obviously another attempt to get Claire and me back together. I thought for a moment before replying. I have some things to take care of here. I'm not sure when I'll be back. A few minutes passed before another message came through. The holidays are coming up. We always get together for Christmas. You haven't forgotten, have you? I won't make it this year. You guys have fun. I'll send presents. After that, I put my phone away. Back in Austin, at a high-end restaurant, Maya showed her phone to a hopeful-looking Claire. Claire, you should just apologize to Liam, Maya urged. You know you were wrong. It was a really humiliating thing to do to him. She added, if you just swallow your pride, I know he'll come back. He loves you so much. Claire's face darkened, and she slammed her wine glass down on the table. Don't talk about him again. Who does he think he is? It's not like I'm short on men. Her other friends quickly try to placate her. Claire, don't be angry. Liam's just trying to make a point. Honestly, you went too far this time. Exactly. He planned that whole proposal, and you just shot him down with no regard for his feelings. Just say you're sorry. Maybe plan a new proposal for him. He'll come around. The words were like needles, and Claire's composure finally snapped. Why should I apologize to him? For all these years, he's always been the one apologizing to me. Why can't he be the one to come begging for my forgiveness? Her friends exchanged nervous glances, no one daring to speak. After her outburst, Claire looked around at them, her eyes cold. From now on, none of you are to contact him. If you do, don't blame me for what happens next. As she finished speaking, she gripped the edge of the table, a violent cough racking her body. She spat a mouthful of blood onto the white tablecloth and collapsed. Oh my God, call 911. Maya screamed, rushing to her side. Claire, you're so foolish. This never happened when Liam was around to take care of you. Why are you torturing yourself like this? When Claire woke up, she was staring at the sterile white ceiling of a hospital room. A bitter resentment filled her heart. She remembered now how Liam used to fuss over her, terrified that her demanding job would ruin her health. He was always there, making sure she ate, making sure she rested. Well, had that stopped? She vaguely recalled snapping at him one day, telling him to stop hovering over her all the time. Tears welled in Claire's eyes. All she wanted right now was for Liam to walk through the door with a bowl of hot soup. She reached for her phone, then remembered. In a fit of pique, she had deleted his number and blocked him on every platform. She cried silently. It was strange and unsettling not to have anyone taking care of her. But still, her stubborn pride won out. She put the phone back down, even though she knew his number by heart, a number she would never forget. You won't break me, Liam, she whispered to the empty room. I'm the CEO. I'll make you come back and beg me. I knew nothing about any of this. Honey, time to wake up. Come and try what I made. Sarah's gentle voice drifted from the kitchen, pulling my gaze away from the city skyline. Her legs were really nice. She had insisted I move into her sprawling Upper East Side penthouse. According to her, we were a married couple, and married couples were supposed to live together. She hadn't been going into the office much, either. Instead, she spent her days dragging me through every corner of the city, exploring hidden cafes and quiet parks. I had resigned myself to my fate. We'd done everything a married couple does, and then some. At first, I had resisted, but she would just laugh, pin me down on the bed, and flash a devilish smile. You're my husband. Isn't it normal for a husband and wife to do wifely and husbandly things? I was starting to realize that the whole forced marriage story was probably a fabrication. I didn't know her real reasons, but I was certain she had genuine feelings for me. There was a light in her eyes when she looked at me, the same light I used to have when I looked at Claire. To be honest, I was a mess. A decade of love with Claire had ended in betrayal and heartbreak. All that effort, all that devotion, eroded by time. Could I really build something new with Sarah? The gap between our worlds was a massive chasm. I had to admit, I was deeply, deeply wounded. I was terrified of letting anyone in again. I wanted to lock my heart away in a dark room and hide from the world. When I walked into the kitchen, she looked up at me, her face bright with a smile. She was truly beautiful. This heiress, who had probably never had to lift a finger in her life, was cooking for me. It felt like an incredible gift. I walked up behind her and wrapped my arms around her waist, pulling her close. She leaned back against my chest. It might not be very good, she said softly. Please don't hate it. I smiled into her hair. How could I? Anything you make will be the best thing I've ever tasted. It was strange. Watching her at the stove, a tiny flicker of affection ignited in my heart. Maybe it was just an illusion. Claire had rarely ever cooked for me. We'd always had a private chef. I'd rather spend that time focusing on the company than learning my way around a kitchen, she used to say. After that, I never asked her to cook with me again. Sarah had made steak, but it was a little charred. She looked embarrassed as she set the plate down in front of me. I smiled gently and reached out to wipe a smudge of soot from her cheek. She let out a small shriek and bolted for the bathroom. I chuckled and, without thinking, pulled her plate toward me and started carefully cutting the steak for her. It was just a habit, one I'd developed over years of being with Claire. When Sarah returned, she stopped short, surprised. It was only then that I realized I might have overstepped. "Oh, sorry," I said quickly. "I saw you weren't back yet, so I just cut it for you. If you don't want it, you can have mine." I looked at her sheepishly. Rumor had it that Sarah hated other people touching her things. I felt a knot of anxiety tighten in my stomach. She had worked so hard to make this meal, and the last thing I wanted to do was upset her. "You idiot," she said softly, a warm smile spreading across her face. "I love it." She leaned over and gave me a quick, gentle kiss. Then, she picked up her fork and started cutting my steak for me. I realized then how much she truly cared about me. The easy intimacy between us was something only found between two people whose hearts are in sync. Watching her gentle, focused movements, a warmth spread through my chest. I thought of Claire. For all those years, it had always been me giving, me doing, me anticipating her needs. She took it all for granted, rarely considering my feelings. It was as if I was born to serve her. Whether it was a crisis at the company or a minor inconvenience at home, I had to be there at her beck and call. If I wasn't, she'd lose her temper. Now, for the first time in a long time, I was feeling what it was like to be cherished. If my feelings weren't deceiving me. In that moment, the door to my heart swung wide open for Serafina Monroe. I wanted nothing more than to spend the rest of my life like this, in this simple, intimate bubble with her. But then I remembered, we were only supposed to be husband and wife for a year. "Sarah, this doesn't seem like your usual style," I teased. "Have you had a personality transplant in the years we've been apart?" She stopped what she was doing and looked at me, her expression suddenly serious. "No, but I like you. Anyone else who tried that would have their legs broken." Yep, there was the arrogant heiress, I remembered. But hearing her say, "I like you," sent a jolt through me that I struggled to conceal. To hide my reaction, I quickly picked up my wine glass. Was this really the cold, aloof woman from my college memories? She seemed more like a wildfire. I scrambled to change the subject. "After we eat, do you want to go see a movie?" She looked at me, puzzled, as if she couldn't understand why I'd suddenly suggest that. "I just feel like we're moving really fast," I explained quietly. "Maybe we should work on building a connection. Even if it's only for a year, I don't want you to end up hating me." She froze for a second, a faint blush rising on her cheeks. But her tone was still fierce when she spoke. "We can go to the movies," she said. "But whether we get divorced after a year is my decision, not yours. You're not allowed to bring it up again." Her sudden flash of anger confused me. Wasn't the one-year deal her idea in the first place? Sarah must have realized how harsh she sounded. She stuck out her tongue and looked at me with a hint of pleading in her eyes. "Do we have to get a divorce?" she asked, her voice small. I fell silent. Honestly, after spending these past few weeks with her, the icy walls around my heart had already started to melt. She was passionate, beautiful. It would be a lie to say I wasn't falling for her. "Sarah, I think I'm starting to like you too," I admitted. "But I just got out of a really painful relationship. And besides, I'm just a regular guy." I didn't finish the sentence, but she knew what I meant. She reached out and placed her fingers on my lips, silencing me. She stared at me with those big, beautiful eyes, which looked like they were about to fill with tears. I knew she was putting on an act, but I couldn't help but surrender. "No divorce," I said, my voice softening. "As long as you'll have me, I'll never leave you." "Okay." A brilliant smile broke out on her face. She reached up and pinched my cheek. The feeling of being teased by this formidable woman made my ears turn bright red. "My dear husband, why are your ears so red?" she purred. "It's not like we haven't been completely honest with each other before. Don't you worry. I'm not going to get rid of you." I had to ask myself, was this a powerful CEO, a cool and collected heiress, or is she just a beautiful, beautiful menace? We never made it to the movies. Sarah cornered me in the bedroom. With a sigh of resignation, I decided to play along. "My dearest wife, shall we go investigate whether cats can actually do backflips?" She licked her lips, her voice a seductive whisper. "Oh yes, and I want you to give me a personal demonstration." Before I could react, she had pushed me onto the bed. She really was a woman of many talents. As her perfectly manicured nails traced a line down my chest and her lips met mine, I admitted defeat. I was completely, utterly lost. Claire Vance was finally, truly banished from my heart. "Liam," Sarah whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "Look at me. I want you to love me." Her vulnerability sent a pang through my heart. A 10-year relationship with my first love had ended with her casting me aside, Yet this powerful heiress treated me like a priceless treasure. She must have sensed the shift in my mood. Don't think too much, Liam, she murmured against my skin. Just remember that I will never, ever betray you. We tangled together, our lovemaking fierce and passionate. Afterward, as we lay wrapped in each other's arms, Sarah traced lazy circles on my chest with her cool fingertips. Who makes you happier? She asked softly. Me or Claire Vance? It was a trap and I knew it. How was I supposed to answer that? She propped herself up on her elbow, her eyes locking onto mine, not allowing me to look away. Tell me, she insisted, or are you still thinking about that woman? We were far past the point of games. I pulled her down and kissed her until we were both breathless. Only you, I said finally, my voice thick. You're the only source of my happiness. Good, she whispered, kissing me back, because I'm going to make you happy for the rest of your life. The holiday season felt cold and empty this year. At the annual Christmas party my old friends threw, the guests all wore polite smiles, but none of them held the genuine, unreserved warmth of years past. My gift had arrived in Austin. I'd sent one to everyone in our old circle. Everyone except Claire. Claire watched with a cold expression as her friends squealed with delight over their presents. She clutched a glass of whiskey, a drink she hadn't touched in years. The gifts were thoughtful, all picked out by Sarah. The most striking item was a small bottle of perfume from a brand Claire adored. She frowned, her eyes fixated on the bottle. Maya noticed her expression and quickly handed it to her. Claire took a sniff. It was a beautiful, sophisticated scent, but her face grew darker and darker. Crash! She hurled the bottle against the wall. Then, in a fit of rage, she swept everything off the table. The force of the motion sent her stumbling, and she fell, her leg catching the edge of the broken glass. A deep gash opened on her shin. Her friends gasped in shock. Maya rushed to help her up, intending to take her to the hospital, but Claire shoved her away. Claire, you're bleeding. We need to get you to an emergency room. But Claire just stood there, her face pale and defiant. Liam would never buy this stuff, she said, her voice a raw, desperate rasp. The only perfume he ever liked was gardenia. Her friends tried to comfort her. Claire, don't be upset. He probably just bought these in a rush. I'm sure your gift is something unique. Yeah. He probably had yours sent to the house. Don't be mad. He's just trying to apologize with gifts, Claire. Just be patient. You know he loves you more than anything. Claire snatched a bottle of whiskey and took a long, hard swallow. He's a bastard, she choked out. He doesn't love me at all. It's been almost a month, and he hasn't even called. Her friends fell silent. It was Maya who finally broke the tension. Claire, don't worry. I'll FaceTime him right now, she said, pulling out her phone. Just try to keep your cool, okay? Before Claire could object, the call was already ringing. The seconds stretched into an eternity, each ring a new form of torture. Just as Claire was about to give up hope, the call connected. I just finished a session of vigorous exercise with Sarah and was feeling pleasantly exhausted. Maya, hey, Merry Christmas. What's up? Across the screen, I could see Claire's face. She looked devastated. She recognized the post-coital flush on my face. She'd seen it enough times to know. Liam, Maya said, her voice strained. She kept darting her eyes to the side, trying to get me to notice Claire standing beside her. Did you forget something? I saw Claire perfectly, but I pretended I didn't. Maya, are you sick? Your eyes are twitching. Do you need me to call someone to take you to the hospital? Maya looked like she wanted the floor to swallow her whole. Liam, it's Claire, she said, her voice dropping to a desperate whisper. She's hurt. She saw Claire's face getting paler, her body starting to tremble. Can you please come back and see her? She really misses you, she pleaded. At those words, a flicker of hope ignited in Claire's eyes. Liam, she said, her voice barely a whisper. Come home. What happened before? It was my fault. Okay. Her friends stared in disbelief. The notoriously formidable So had never sounded so pitiful. Even when she apologized in the past, she had always managed to maintain an air of authority. I feigned ignorance. Claire and I broke up. I said, my tone flat. It's not my place to take care of her anymore. Maya tried one last time, convinced I was just being stubborn after all the years I had been crazy about Claire. Liam, stop playing games. There's a limit to this. You and Claire have been together for so long. It would be a shame to throw it all away. I didn't bother replying. I just ended the call. On the other side of the country, Claire completely fell apart. She snatched the phone, its screen now black, and smashed it on the floor again and again, until it was nothing but a pile of broken components. Her friends didn't dare breathe. They had heard every word. Overwhelmed, Claire's eyes rolled back in her head, and she fainted. As Maya rushed to catch her, She saw a single tear trace a path down Claire's cheek. After hanging up, I went out to the balcony and lit a cigarette. Sarah came up behind me, wrapping her arms around my waist. Liam, she began, her voice hesitant. Are you still thinking about her? I patted her hand and turned to face her, pulling her into my arms. No, I said firmly. It's over between us. There's no going back. Hearing that, Sarah melted into my embrace. I could feel the tension leave her body. Liam, I've been in love with you for a very long time, she confessed, her voice muffled against my chest. You're mine now, and I'm never, ever going to let you go. She pulled back slightly to look at me. That 1-year agreement. I made it up. I was afraid you wouldn't agree to marry me otherwise. She looked embarrassed to admit it, but she forced herself to continue. I reached up and gently stroked her cheek. I had sensed her feelings for me for a while now, but I still couldn't understand why. It couldn't have just been because I let her have a seat in the library all those years ago. The story of how we met seemed more absurd every time I thought about it. Sarah, can you tell me? I asked. I remember meeting you for the first time in the library 10 years ago. I tried to lighten the mood. Was I just so handsome you fell in love at first sight? My teasing made her blush. She gave my side a sharp pinch. Liam, the first time we met wasn't 10 years ago, she said seriously. It was 13 years ago. Do you remember now? I was completely baffled. 13 years ago? How is that possible? Sarah, you must be mistaken. We were just kids then. I have no memory of that. She punched my chest lightly. You jerk. How could I be mistaken? I've been quietly watching you for 13 years. How many 13 years does a person get in their life? This only confused me more. How could this New York heiress have known me for that long? I wasn't even from the city. Liam, I know this is hard to believe, but just listen. 13 years ago, you saved a girl from drowning in a reservoir. Do you remember? A long-buried memory slowly surfaced. She was right. It was the summer after I finished middle school. I was out with my friends near the old reservoir. We saw a girl struggling in the water. Without a second thought, I jumped in and pulled her out. I carried her down the hill, but before I could even ask her name, a group of men in black suits appeared and whisked her away. Later, they came to my family's house to thank us, leaving behind a significant amount of money. You were that girl? Sarah bit my lip, hard enough to draw a drop of blood. The metallic taste spread through my mouth. You idiot, she whispered. Of course it was me. Why else would I know everything about you? I was still trying to process it. So, the library. That was me too, she admitted. I arranged it. I figured you were in college by then, old enough to handle me confessing my feelings. I created a chance encounter, but I ran into a brick wall. I scratched my head. To be honest, I was kind of glad I'd been a brick wall back then. Her army of admirers would have torn me to shreds. But you went abroad so suddenly, I said, my own curiosity now fully ignited. My mind filled with dramatic scenarios of a rich girl running away for love, of disapproving parents tearing young lovers apart. Sarah must have known what I was thinking, because she pinched me again, harder this time. Ow! I yelped, begging for mercy. Stop letting your imagination run wild, she scolded. After we met again, I was planning to tell you how I felt, but then I saw you confessing your feelings to Claire Vance. I was so heartbroken that I decided to go abroad to study. She continued, but I never stopped paying attention to you. I took over my family's business, but I always kept tabs on you. When I heard you and Claire were fighting and that you'd come to New York, I knew it was my chance. And don't worry, she added, my parents approve. You don't really think I could just get married without their blessing, do you? I pulled her into the tightest hug I could manage. There was nothing left to say. I would spend the rest of my life loving this woman. Sarah, I'm so sorry, I whispered. You've waited so long. Please, let me take care of you for the rest of our lives. In that moment, a passionate kiss was the only answer we needed. In Austin, Claire woke up from another nightmare. She had dreamed that Liam was gone for good. She looked at the empty space beside her in the bed and began to sob, burying her face in her hands. There was a time when she had desperately wanted Liam to propose. But when the day finally came, she had thrown it away. She had convinced herself that after a decade-long marathon, she didn't need him anymore. She had even grown to resent his constant concern for her, wishing he would just leave her alone. But now that he was truly gone, why did it hurt so much? Was this just one of his manipulative games to win her back? No, that didn't make sense. He loved her too much for that. How could he go for weeks without contacting her? She had unblocked his number days ago. She was just waiting for him to give her an excuse, any excuse, and she would have gladly swallowed her pride. Wait, Liam must have found something out. She threw on her clothes and drove like a maniac to the home they had once shared. Claire, who was always so composed, was now a complete mess. She got into the car Liam used to drive and, with trembling hands, accessed the dashcam footage. What she saw felt like being plunged into ice water. Liam had followed her to the club that night. How much did he know? Ignoring the late hour, she sped to the club, running more than a dozen red lights. As a VIP member, she was quickly granted access to the security recordings. Claire collapsed to the floor. There on the screen was the image of Liam standing outside the private suite. She saw him stagger, his hand reaching out to brace himself against the wall. Then, he turned and walked away without looking back. Tears streamed down her face. He knew everything. I didn't mean it, she whispered to the empty security office. I just didn't want to look weak in front of my friends. I wasn't ready to get married. Liam, come back. In a daze, Claire returned to the home that she and Liam had shared, or rather, the home that had once been theirs. She hadn't been back a long time. In the months leading up to the breakup, she had used work as an excuse to stay in one of her other properties, the same places she had carried on her flings with younger men. But those were just houses. They weren't a home. Claire slapped herself across the face hard. She hated herself. She hated her selfishness, hated that she had cheated, hated that she hadn't come back sooner. Most of all, she hated that she had lost the one man whose eyes had only ever been for her. On the dining room table, she found the engagement ring he had offered her, sitting next to a box containing every gift she had ever given him. Even the jar of origami stars she had folded for him in college was there. The only thing missing was the recipient of those gifts. When Liam's lawyer had contacted her about dividing the company's shares, she had scoffed, thinking it was just another one of his dramatic ploys. But now, seeing the shredded remains of the custom-made wedding dress on the floor, a physical pain shot through her. She knew how much Liam had loved her, how desperately he had wanted to marry her, and she had been the one to destroy it all. Now, she was truly scared. She was terrified that Liam was done with her for good. She couldn't live without him. He was her anchor. No matter how tired she was, no matter how badly she had been hurt, Liam was always there, quietly supporting her, listening to her, guiding her. He was her life. In the days since their breakup, she had dismissed all the boy toys. How could they possibly compare to her Liam? She picked up the letter he had left and opened it with trembling hands. The first line read, "Our story is over. We will never see each other again." The words, "never see each other again," felt like a knife twisting in her heart. She read on. The letter recounted countless small moments from their 10 years together, transporting her back to the innocent love they had shared in college. The last line of the letter was a final, devastating blow. Someone who betrays a true heart deserves neither love nor happiness. Claire whispered the words to herself. He's right. I betrayed him. I don't deserve the happiness that should have been mine. After a long time, she staggered to her feet. No, Liam, she vowed. I'm going to find you. This time, I'll be the one to pursue you, to take care of you, to comfort you. I'm going to give you back all the love you gave me, double. With a shaking hand, Claire dialed the number that was etched into her soul. Miraculously, he picked up. Her voice was thick with tears. Liam, where are you? I want to propose to you. But the sound that answered her wasn't his voice. It was a sound she knew all too well, an intimate, rhythmic noise that made her stomach clench. She swallowed her pride and forced her voice to be gentle. Liam, where are you? Let me come and pick you up, okay? We can go home. This time, a woman's voice answered, cool and collected. He's busy. Don't bother him. In the background, the sounds of pleasure continued, painting a vivid picture in Claire's mind. She completely lost it. What are you two doing? The woman's sultry laugh was the final stab to Claire's heart. Exactly what it sounds like. The line went dead. Claire sank to the floor, the phone still clutched in her hand. She didn't know when the call had ended. She just sat there on the cold floor, staring into space until the sun came up. She called every friend Liam had. She reached out to every contact she could think of. Finally, she found out where he was. By the time she tracked him down, I was preparing to propose to Sarah. I was wearing a suit she had picked out for me, tailored to perfection. Sarah was radiant in a simple, elegant white dress. Just as I dropped to one knee and pulled out the ring, Claire burst into the room. No, you can't do this. Liam is mine. She stumbled toward me and fell to her knees at my feet. Then she started slapping herself, hard, her beautiful face instantly turning red and swollen. Liam, we loved each other so much, she cried, tears streaming down her face. How could you just let it go? We promised we'd be together forever. How can you leave me? Liam, I'm begging you, come back to me. Let me spend the rest of my life making it up to you, please. Sarah stepped in front of me, shielding me from Claire, her expression as cold as ice. Ms. Vance, if you're here to congratulate us, you're welcome. If you're here to ruin this ceremony, you'll find I can be very unpleasant. I turned my head and looked past Sarah, my gaze falling on the pathetic woman kneeling on the floor. I said one word, my voice devoid of all emotion. Get out. Claire froze, unable to accept the brutal reality of the situation. Overcome with regret, she buried her face in her hands, continuing to kneel as she watched me slide the ring onto Seraphina Monroe's finger. Liam, I just want to talk to you. Please. Claire begged, her voice now quiet and broken. Please don't be so cruel. The guests were already whispering amongst themselves. I heard snippets of their conversations, some calling me a social climber, others speculating about the drama. I didn't care about my own reputation, but I would not let anyone tarnish Sarah's. I would not let the woman who had loved me for over a decade be subjected to this kind of gossip. I let out a cold, humorless laugh. What do you want to talk about, Claire? Do you want to talk about how you rejected my proposal in front of all our friends? Her head snapped up, her eyes wide with shock. Or maybe we should talk about how you were in a private club, making out with some boy toy? Or perhaps, I continued, my voice dropping lower, we could discuss how you badmouthed me to your friends? How you call me used goods that you were bored with? Claire was speechless. She had done all those things. Liam, I was wrong, she sobbed. Please forgive me. Just this once. Please. I love you. I squeezed Sarah's hand, my expression calm, but the force of my grip betrayed the rage boiling beneath the surface. Sarah, who was already furious at Claire's appearance, let her inner alpha CO loose. Ms. Vance, she began, her voice sharp and cutting. Today is my engagement party. For you to cause a scene like this is a grave insult to the Monroe family. Sarah took a step forward. I have loved Liam for 13 years. Back in college, I was a step too late. I saw that you two were together, so I quietly bowed out. Her eyes narrowed. But did you cherish him? You cheated on him. You grew tired of him. You slandered him behind his back. What do you take him for? A toy. You took the man I have loved for 13 years, and you treated him like garbage. The only reason your company isn't bankrupt right now is because I've shown restraint. If you continue to make a scene, I suggest you consider what the full force of my family's influence can do. Sarah's words were laced with possessiveness and aggression, and I loved it. To be valued like this, to be protected, it was a warmth I had never known. Claire knelt there, her face a ghostly white. She knew, in that moment, that she had truly and irrevocably lost the man who had always loved her, the man who had been with her since they were just kids. She whispered one last, broken "I'm sorry." Then like a ghost, she got up and walked away. Back in Austin, Claire sold everything. She sold her company, her properties, her cars, everything except the one house we had shared. Following her lawyer's advice, she transferred all of my shares back to me. With what remained, she established an educational foundation for underprivileged students, leaving herself with just enough to live on. She threw herself into her work, working with a frantic, desperate energy, as if it were the only thing that could numb the pain. She was determined to live out her days alone, a true penance for her sins. At the foundation's inaugural ceremony, her face was placid, her eyes empty of any light. She stood at the podium, looking out at the sea of young, hopeful students. When she spoke, her voice was flat and hollow. I hope, she said, that you never betray a true heart, because someone who betrays a true heart deserves neither love nor happiness.